And batteries, the topic that is on every day, really.
Yes.
Different type of batteries and everything.
Yeah, batteries, chargers, that I think one person would at least ask a day.
So we're going to talk about RC cars today. Actually, we received a huge delivery, quite a few new products.
Okay.
But before doing that, we're going to talk about batteries.
Yes.
And I do that because when you used to work with us, we had so many questions about batteries, and it's coming to Christmas time where people are trying new hobbies, and batteries the topic that is on every day, really.
Yes.
Different type of batteries and everything.
Yeah, batteries, chargers, that I think one person would at least ask a day.
Every day.
Yeah,
So different type of batteries. So what do you know about batteries?
So what we can mention first is usually what type of batteries you choose.
Yes.
So the ones that I use, for example, for my drones, they're called Lipo batteries. And I think these ones, are they all LiPos, the one you...
These are all LiPos, yeah?
Yes. So it's basically just what the battery is made of. And LiPos can go from 1S for little RC planes to like, I think 6S.
6S or plus even 12S, like really big. For big helicopter, they'll be like big packs, like really heavy.
Yeah. So that's, and S means the number of cells that you have in your battery.
Exactly.
So 4S is 4 cells, 2S is 2 cells.
2 cells, yeah.
And so that's the basic, LiPos, or this one is NIMH.
Correct.
So
NIMH is a bit of an older technology, I guess.
Yes, yeah.
And is the traditional big cells, as you probably remember if you play with toy cars back in the 80s perhaps, where you were actually building batteries with individual cells. So now they come pre-packaged like that, and they're very inexpensive and very safe as well. So for the kids, these are really good.
Yeah.
Again, they have different voltages dictated by the number of cells. Normally 7.2 or 8.4, that's very much the standard for truck cells, 8.4 volts.
Yeah.
And one important things with the NIMH, while they're really safe, the first few times you use them, the charge is not going to be a full charge. So you need 3 or 4, 5 charges before they actually are really effective and they fully charge.
Okay.
So if you use some of those, the first couple of runs, your car may run for a bit less than you expected, but keep charging them 4 or 5 times and they will be in full swing.
Yes, yeah.
So very good options. They're quite inexpensive. And if you have young kids, these are safe.
Yeah, yes. I
Very
think
safe.
So. A LiPo, it's like more for when you start knowing what you're doing, especially with charging them, these kind of things, you know, that you need to know what you're doing a little bit more. And then when we talk about batteries, the main thing is the
Plugs. That's the plugs.
You might think, oh, I'm going to go buy my battery, you come home, you want to plug it in your RC, whatever car or plane, and it's not the right plug, and you have to come back to the store. And
Absolutely. So I think there's probably, but there's many plugs.
Yes.
That's, I don't know,
We can
20, 30, 40 different plugs. But there's few of the common ones that we should name that'll be good for people to recognize what they may have, what they may need. So we have a XT90.
XT90, that's a big version of the XT60,
Correct.
which is more common for smaller RC models.
Yes.
And then, so that's one of the newest version for, like, in terms of standards.
Absolutely.
In the industry, they were not around for a long time. This one is older. I think the red.
That's a Dean's plug. So some tend to call it T because it's got this kind of shape. I should probably put the side camera, but it's got a shape of what one contact goes this way, the other goes this way. So they have this T shape, and they tend to be red. So the Dean's plugs are red, and they've got this T shape, as you can see here. So that's easy to recognize. But this one here, they've got the 2 bullets.
Yes.
Like this, 2 bullets, and they're yellow.
Yeah. Most of the time.
Most of the time they're yellow.
Sometimes
They do them black too occasionally,
Yeah.
but the original XT60, XT90 were
Is
actually yellow.
Yeah.
Now, there is a blue version that is very similar.
Ah, true.
There is EC3 and EC5 and EC9 too, I
Yes,
think.
yeah.
And they are blue, but they're actually not quite compatible really. So
No.
similar but different. They're not very much in use anymore.
Not really.
So for most of the larger ready-to-run cars, you will have the XT90s.
Yes.
So, and then you have the black Traxxas one, very well-known Traxxas
Yes.
plug.
They
So
decided to have their own plug.
absolutely, they decide to have their own plug, which is great. So that's a black plug, and it's normally Traxxas. So there's a couple of different options. They've got a standard Traxxas like you have here, and they've got the Traxxas ID,
Okay.
which is a special battery where your balancing is actually merged together,
Okay.
and you need to use a special charger.
Okay.
So based on this, we should explain what balancing is.
Yes.
Very important.
So these balance leads are only useful when you're going to start charging your battery. So do we mention that there's no balance lead on the NIMH?
Yes.
So NIMH, you won't have this little balance plug here, but this one is actually here because you have different cells that you're going to charge in your batteries. So this is here to make sure that each cell is going to be charged at the same voltage during the process. So it's also good to check, on your charger. Some chargers do it, but they don't do it, all of them. But you can check how much voltage you have in each of your cells before you're going to charge it. It's always safe to do that in case, you've had your battery for a long time, you've had lots of crashes, and one cell is getting tired. You don't want to charge a battery that has a cell that is a lot lower than all the other ones.
Absolutely.
So that's a good way to check all your cells' voltage. Of course, it starts when you have like 2S, because when you have 1S battery,
it's one cell.
It's one cell. But so that's the reason why they have it. So when you're going to charge your battery, you have to plug both of them. So this one in like positive and negative of your charger, and this one goes in what we call the balance
port.
Yeah, port.
So one good thing also, if you don't know how many cells your battery has, obviously the 2 cell will have 3 wires. So you've got a positive and a negative, and then one in the middle.
Yeah.
So to compare the voltage between the different cells, and as you go up, you get more more wires really. Here we go. So that's another useful tip. Because often people don't know how many cells. You see on your card, normally they have a 2S, which represent 2 cells, but can be also 7.4 volts.
Yes.
So each cell normally is 3.7 volts. So 2 cells 7.4, then you have 3 cell 11.1, and 4 cell
16.4. That's the one I'm used to.
Yeah, that's right, and so forth really. Yes. So and you go up from there. So lots of small things.
Then maybe you want to talk about the milliamps.
The capacity, absolutely. That's the next thing. So like in a car, you have a fuel tank, and your fuel tank can be bigger or smaller. Bigger fuel tank, your car is going to run for longer. Same for batteries. You have a milliampere capacity, which is how much energy they can store, and this specific one says 6,500, which is quite large actually.
Yes.
And there will be 6,500 milliampere battery in here.
Yeah.
So
that's
and
this.
each one will have different. So this is a 5,200. It's a bit smaller, but this is a 4S, so you can see different in size because it got double number of cells. So more voltage.
The 4S in general, let's say in RC car, will give you a little bit more. It ends up being more speed.
Correct.
But the milliamp will give you more time.
Absolutely. That's
so that's how you have to choose your battery. And then there's one last thing you can choose is the C rating.
Yes.
If you have choices between them. C rating is the instant speed that you would get. So
absolutely.
Like the I don't know how to say, acceleration will be greater if the number is higher.
Absolutely. Specifically, for example, when you fly quads, if you have a battery with higher C rating, you immediately feel the difference. That is much more responsive to your control.
Definitely, yes. And in the past, C rating was a bit like disregarded, if I remember well. And now that batteries are getting better and better, C rating is important. So if you can try to have, this one is like 50 C for a 3S. That's
that's pretty good.
Very decent. So these kind of things. That's the last thing to look at, especially if you're more into fast RC models. If you don't really care, you just want to drive around, it doesn't matter that much.
So the bigger the car, the higher the C rating you want, because if you have a big motor, you tend to pull much more amperage. Yeah. And if you have a cheaper battery with a lower C rating, there is also the possibility of damaging the battery.
Okay.
So if the battery is quite not designed to release that much power instantaneously, the battery may puff. So you may see on some of the soft case, the one without the plastic, once they get a bit puffed, that's a sign that the battery potentially is damaged, and you should probably not be using it again.
Yeah.
Or if you have a hard case battery like this one with the plastic around, if you see the plastic cracking, is often a sign that you puffed the cell inside, which is swollen and breaking the case. So be very careful when you see the LiPo battery expanding.
Yes.
It's quite dangerous, they could catch fire. So not to scare anyone, but be always safe when you play with batteries in general.
And that's the thing also about, when you come to choose your batteries, you want to choose something that looks sturdy, I don't know how to describe it, but you don't want, for example, this brand, would do, but you have like, if you buy online, sometimes you don't know what you receive, and then you do 2-3 flights if you're flying drones, and then your battery are all puffed, or you do a crash and you can tell that it's damaged. So, and in terms of maintenance, what do you think? What do we say?
Safe storage, that's always an important thing. So if you, I think there is actually a question here.
People are asking what is the recommended storage. I think was in particular for LiPo, but what about in general for all batteries?
Yeah, so batteries are different, but the key part is if you don't use the battery for a longer period of time, let's say you play every week, it's probably fine. But if you're not sure you're going to use it again in a long period of time, you need to store the LiPo battery into a voltage which is not fully charged or fully discharged.
Yes.
So most of the chargers have a storage function, and you just select the storage function, let the charger prepare the battery. But effectively, if you leave it fully charged, you may have a problem, and if you leave it flat, it will probably go below voltage.
Yes, that's the problem. So if they're fully charged, it's almost like you can picture something that physical that would always be full, like a container that's always full. Of course, with time, it starts being strained and it doesn't like it. So physically, you're damaging your cells. And if it's under voltage or very close to empty, then it will definitely lose the voltage. And milliamps and everything, and then you have like a dead battery. It will be hard to bring it back to life. So I think the sweet spot...
It's probably halfway. I think it's a 60% charge or something like that. But chargers normally have this function set up, so it's quite straightforward, really.
Yes.
But that brings to actually another topic is in relation to low voltage cell.
Yeah.
So what happens if you over discharge this type of batteries? It's normally bad news.
Yes, that depends on the battery, and that's again when you have high quality or good quality batteries, that's when you have more chance to bring them back to life as well. So what you can do, what I do, I hope it works with what you do at the store.
Tell us.
I would charge, so we talked about the C rating before, but when we say we charge at 1C or 2C a battery, it's charging at the number of milliamps.
Yes.
So for example, a 5200 battery, when I say I'm charging them at 1C, I would put on my charger 5.2 amps. Yeah, and that's the best way to charge a battery.
Absolutely.
But when something is damaged, I usually go below half a C.
Yes.
So I don't know how much you put. I put
we need to be very careful at that point. And trying to slowly bump it up.
So,
and hopefully the charger does the balancing and trying to recover the cells, which doesn't happen really often. So what happens is if you run a car, most of the modern cars have a voltage cutoff. So with LiPo battery, if you go below a voltage, a nominal voltage of each cell, you actually damage the battery, and normally they don't work anymore. So most of the cars have a voltage cutoff system built into the speed controller. What that means is if the speed controller detects the voltage which is lower than the nominal voltage, it will stop the car.
yes.
If you keep going at that point, you go below voltage and your charger will not be able to charge ever again this battery. So you need to be very careful that your car does have a voltage cutoff, which is the case for most of the modern cars, but always be mindful of that. Some of the cheaper entry-level cars don't have that function really. So often people go out with some of these cars and then come back that the car is flat and they can't charge it anymore. Very careful with that.
I've got two questions.
Few questions.
The first one is actually regarding the storage. I think they also meant physical storage, like do we have anything in here, or recommendations of how to physically store the batteries?
Someone is suggesting LiPo storage bags. Actually, we didn't mention that. So, LiPo safe bags. Really.
Yes, so they're fireproof.
Fireproof bags.
To a certain degree, obviously, but it's a lot safer. Some people have metal box.
cases. Yes.
I put mine in an old microwave.
Old microwave. Very good. Don't turn it on.
No, don't turn it on.
It'll be a bit of a disaster.
Make sure it's unplugged and you don't have kids.
Yeah, exactly. So always put in, even when you charge, use a LiPo safe bag.
Yes.
And most importantly, don't leave your home when you're charging batteries. Ever, really,
never.
because things can happen.
And try to stay next to your charger. What I do also, especially because I have fresh batteries, but I have older ones that are still working, and even if the cells, they look balanced, like what we mentioned earlier, I touch batteries while they're on charge, and they shouldn't get hot.
Too hot.
The charger might get hot, that's normal, but plugs shouldn't get too hot, and batteries should stay room temperature, reasonably cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the other question was more for the Hearns workshop. Marty was asking if we're able to make elevators for the USS Enterprise at 1/400 scale.
All right, we'll address that in a second. Tony suggested ammo box. Yes, yeah, a metal box could be also a good way to go. But generally speaking, if you've got a box that doesn't have any oxygen, if there was a fire, we'll tend to prevent it really. Generally speaking, it goes back to the quality. You know, often you can buy the same battery for $35 somewhere, or you buy, you know, for $80. There is a huge difference.
Yes.
This is a product that we select ourselves. It's called Ninesteps, and the battery are something that we actually test ourselves. So we have a quality control, so we know that this is a good quality cell. The manufacturer tend to offer us different level of product, and the cost is substantially different.
Okay.
These materials is quite of a process where they manufacture the cells, and then some come up really good and some less good, and then they give you different quality batteries.
Okay.
So it's when you manufacture battery, like in this case here, you select the better cells, so you know that even though they look identical, what's inside can be very different. Hence, you see different price points from.
Yes. Yeah.
Specifically when you fly drones.
Yes.
Drones tend to be quite demanding in power actually.
Yes.
So the battery need to be really good quality.
Yes, they need to be good quality, otherwise you don't get the most out of it. It's more obvious that you don't get the most of a drone because, you know, it's 3D. So it needs a little bit more momentum in this kind of thing.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think this is it for batteries.
Yeah.
There's quite a few questions. I can see that I think we addressed most of them as we could talk through, but yeah, be safe and make sure you select the right battery, different plugs. Just take some pictures. If you need some help, you can send us pictures on Facebook and we can help you identify what plug you have.
Especially in DOB, you know, I used to tell when I was here and I was selling batteries, I would say, if you forget what I just told you, please ring us, because it's better to be safe, you know,
Absolutely.
with batteries.